Hi, it's Andy from Leadsability, and in today's video I want to talk about how much it costs to advertise online. Now, this is a complicated subject, unfortunately, but I will try to simplify it as much as possible. So let's start at the beginning. As a small and medium-sized business owner or manager, senior manager, you're going to essentially choose one of the four or several of the four big advertising networks. You've got Google, which includes YouTube, you've got Facebook or Instagram, you've got LinkedIn, and you've got Twitter. So those are the big four, and you can reach almost all the type of audiences you wanted to reach on those four without any problem whatsoever. Now, what we need to understand first of all, before we go into how much you should budget and how much it can cost and all that sort of thing, is to talk about some basics so you get to understand what it really means. So the first thing is to understand is that online advertising is a variable cost. The pricing changes all the time. When you do an ad, for example, in a magazine or a newspaper, what you normally do is you say, well, okay, you call the magazine or the newspaper and you say, how much is it going to cost to put my ad in there for 1 month? And they're going to say it's $200 or whatever it's going to cost. You pay your money and then they place your ad. In the online system, the prices are changing 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Now, they're not huge variations, but they do change very frequently. It's a bit like foreign exchange. The sort of prices keep changing all the time, okay? So that's the first thing you've got to understand, that it's a very pricing game. It's not a fixed cost game. The second thing you need to understand is how they actually charge you. Now, advertising networks can charge you in two type of ways. When I mean charge, they mean charge your credit card, right? So they charge you on what's known as a cost per click basis. It's also called pay per click. So it's the same thing. CPC and PPC is the same thing. It sounds terribly confusing, but you just need to understand the following. You only pay when someone clicks on your ad online to visit your website, for example. That's the only time you pay, all right? You don't pay. Your ad could appear 1,000 times during the day and you won't pay anything, which is great. You only pay when someone clicks on your ad. And this is particularly common in Google advertising. Now, the second type of advertising is what's known as CPM, and this stands for cost per meal. Basically, meal is 1,000, so every time your ad is shown 1,000 times, you are charged a certain amount of money. It might be $8, £10, whatever it is. You're charged for every time the ad is shown 1,000 times, and this is this is the basis actually on how Facebook and Instagram charge. Even though when you look, when you do advertising there, you see different columns and they're all very confusing. But at the end of the day, they actually charge on how many times on the per 1,000 basis. That's how they do it. Okay. All right. So with those two things in the way out of the way, we've got the third thing which I want to talk about, which is what affects actually the pricing, or how much does this really cost? Well, there isn't a simple answer to this question, as I started out in this video. It's not a simple subject, but it comes down to three main variables. The first one is a surprising one, and it's the quality of the ad itself. If you write a good ad or produce a good video on YouTube, for example, and you advertise that video and it gets a lot of traction, gets a lot of views, what Google would understand in that particular case, it's Google, right? They would understand that that's a good quality ad. And what they generally do is they reduce their prices by rewarding advertisers, because they in turn want to provide a good experience to the users. I mean, if the users got fed up with being on Facebook or Instagram and all the rest of it, because they just, yes, there are a lot of ads, but if they're basically good quality ads, then basically they're giving a good experience to the users and the users are happy, and so on and so forth. So you get rewarded for better quality ads. So it's in your own interest to make sure the quality of your advertising is good. The second variable is geography. It's not going to cost the same as it would in Toronto, New York, London, New Delhi. It doesn't matter. It's going to change wherever you happen to be. So for example, if you're advertising in London, it's generally going to be more expensive than advertising, for example, in Coventry. It's just the nature of the beast. Why? Because it leads us to the third point, which is the competition. Generally speaking, in London, there's a lot more competition to advertise. And in fact, for example, if we look at a national level, the most expensive advertising is, generally speaking, in insurance. Now, there are ways around it, but essentially insurance is probably the most expensive market on the planet. Whether it's car insurance, health insurance, or home insurance, one of the most expensive advertising ways to advertise. Advertising is very expensive in those particular sectors, okay? So those are the three things. With all of that said now, how much should you budget and how much you put away? Because obviously I can't give you a price, right? How much should you budget? Well, it depends. You can start out really small, and if you're nervous about advertising, you probably want to start that way. Generally speaking, however, if you want to not wait forever to get results, you want some sort of results within a month or something like that. And when I mean by results, it means you're getting a positive return on the money you spend on the advertising. I would suggest that you put between £500 and £1,000 or dollars towards your advertising per month initially. Now, with that said, if you're a very small business and you're in a small town, and you probably don't even need to put that amount of money. But generally speaking, you need to put between, starting out 500 and 1,000, maybe up to 1,500 depending on the market. As I said, if you're advertising insurance, you probably need to put 5,000 a month minimum to get started, because it's such a competitive industry for online advertising. So it really depends on your market, but generally speaking, yeah, that's the kind of numbers you need to look at. Okay. Now, this sounds quite a lot of money to some, and others it's perfectly normal. And if you're a new advertiser or even a seasoned advertiser, essentially it doesn't really matter too much how much the advertising costs, because really your main performance measurement is going to be the return on investment that you're going to make. And I'm going to talk about that in a separate video, because otherwise this will go on forever. But I just wanted to explain how much basically advertising costs, or at least what are the factors that affect advertising prices. So with that said, I hope you found this useful, interesting, insightful. If you've got any questions or comments, let us know, or simply visit our website or leave a comment somewhere, and we'll get back to you. So thanks very much, and speak to you soon in the next video. Take care.